It's TIE Pilot update time. Hello and welcome back to Blues Armory, where today we have another update on the TIE Pilot costume for the 501st. And this one is a pretty big update because we have a painted helmet. Look at it, it's a painted helmet. So let's get into it and talk about what I've been doing over the last week on this TIE Pilot costume. Woo! So as you can see, we got the TIE Pilot helmet all put together, sanded, primed, and painted in about a week. I'm gonna be honest with you here, this was probably one of the most difficult props that I've ever had to work on. I could not get this perfect, no matter how hard I tried. I don't know what I was doing wrong. I think it was a combination of using too much putty filler, and I should have used more filler primer, because I was leaving all these tiny little imperfections that I couldn't get covered up, because if I covered them with filler from like the jar from the putty, it would just make more. So after a lot of sanding, we finally managed to get it looking pretty decent, and it's not perfect, and I think I need to work on it a little bit more, but we have a TIE Pilot helmet. And having that sitting around is just like one of the coolest things to look at. I just keep looking at it and it's amazing. So a few things I need to work on with the helmet is one, that the shine on the helmet isn't that real glossy shine that you see on the helmets of the TIE Pilots. So I need to figure out how I can sort of buff the clear coat to make it look like really nice and reflective and shiny, so I can see the rebels behind me in my helmet. But what else have we been working on this week? Well, this week has been a big week on trying to get the chest plate working back together again. So I started the week with going over the chest plate again and again and again. I got really greedy, and this is actually a really big lesson that I learnt, and almost had a breakdown about, in that working on props is something that you really just need to take your time with. I got ahead of myself and decided that it'd be a great idea just to whap some paint down on the chest plate. And as soon as I put the black paint down, I knew I'd made a mistake, because I could see all the tiny little imperfections on the chest plate, and the black paint just brought them all out. So what did I do? Well, I sanded it all down again until I was happy with the finish. And then we tried again thinking, all good. And then I hadn't quite finished it, and we had to do some more sanding. So what's actually happened is I've painted the chest plate twice now, and it's still not come out exactly the way I wanted it. But let's show you the chest plate. So here's the chest plate. First things first that I have done is I've mounted the mounting bracket that I'm going to be using to mount the chest box. How many times did I just say mount there? This is the apparatus that the chest box is going to stick onto, and it means that it's going to stay on my chest. I also reprinted the chest box in an accurate size, because my previous chest box, which we'll show you now, the previous chest box, I'm going to go on my tiptoes here, the previous chest box was going to be probably a little bit small for the costume, so that goes in the bin. So the chest plate. My biggest point with the chest plate, and I think I brought this up in my previous video, is that this seam here was causing me all kinds of trouble. I put so much filler over it, and it kind of feels smooth now. It's had filler primer, it's had sanding, it's had filler, it's had filler primer, it's had sanding, it's had sanding, it's had sanding, it's had filler primer, it's had sanding, and oh, I've almost had a breakdown over this chest piece. But as you can see, or can you see? We'll throw some B-roll in. It's not quite there, and I can't figure out what I'm doing wrong. I've gone through all different grits of sandpaper. I've tried filler primer. This has had like 6 coats of filler primer. I'm gonna give it another sand actually after this video and try and see if we can get all these little pockets smoothed down, because this thing is driving me insane. You can ask my girlfriend. I think at one point I was like, I'm just not gonna do the 501st. I understand why a lot of people just buy vacuum formed, vacuum cast pieces, because it just is less work than trying to 3D print the whole thing and get that sheen on it. But we are going to persevere, because I said I was going to do this channel to show people that it could be done and for people to learn from my mistakes. So one, my first bit of advice for people that are looking to do this TIE Pilot costume 3D printed is when you're gluing your pieces together, get them lined up in the first place. Otherwise you'll end up doing weeks of this shit that I've been doing. So just get it right in the first place, because then you won't have to go over what I'm going over. Aside from the chest plate, we have also worked on the back plate. I'll show you that now. Here's the back plate. Last time we saw it, it was mostly just raw filament. Now it's been sanded a few times and had some filler and some filler primer on it. This thing is an absolute mess, and this is going to take me a long, long time again to get this all nice and smooth, as you can see. Come on. There's still quite a lot of work to do with that. Next thing that we've done, I've done a lot this week. We printed all the parts for the helmet, all the vocoder and the disc details and all that. We have the chest box printed in the right size, and I've started to sand that. In fact, I'll show you that now. Here's the chest box, which I've just put some of the details in now for anything, but this fits a little bit, sorry, I'm covering Captain Rex. This fits a little bit better and it looks a bit nicer. There's still a lot of sanding and priming. That sums up this costume. Get back in there. Oh, this costume is causing me so much stress. The details are still in the process of being sanded down. Look, if I could do this all over again, and I'm still considering doing it, I would have loved to resin print these, because things this small are an absolute pain in the ass to sand, and I wouldn't recommend anyone doing it, especially like little buttons and stuff like that. But this is starting to look like a chest box. Again, I'm going to run into that same... I'm going to lose it with this costume. Like I was saying, it's going to take a long time to get this nice and glossy, and I'm going to take what I learnt and maybe the mistakes I made with the helmet and put them into the chest piece, the back piece and the chest box, so that we can at least make sure those are really nice, crisp and shiny. So what is my plan for the coming week? Well, I'm going to try and buff out the helmet to make sure that it is gloss and shiny and smooth. We need to get decals for the top of the helmet. Along this process, I've actually gone flip-flop between a Rogue One TIE Pilot and a Squadrons Titan 3 TIE Pilot, and I'm now lent over towards the Squadrons one, and it is because I've played quite a bit of Squadrons recently. So we need 2 Imperial Cog details and decals to go here. Then we've got 2 options, and this is maybe a question to the people watching, is we have the Squadron's first paint job, which has this red fang design on the front, which would be an absolute ball ache to paint, but if I got it right, would look awesome. And then the details on it, on the front, on the vocoder and the aerators are silver. The one I'm kind of leaning more towards out of ease more than anything has a grey triangle mohawk, and then along the sides we have grey striping, which is equally as hard because I don't know what grey that colour is. But that's what's to do and to look for over the next week. And also to install the lenses. Luckily, I have some welding shield bits left over from Mandalorians. So I'm hoping that there's enough scraps for me to just pop in some nice TIE Pilot eyepieces. And that's kind of where we're at. I know I said last week that I was going to try and look at soft parts, and I have looked at soft parts. I'm more leaning to getting generic overalls and having a local tailor them down, because I think that would be cheaper than going with someone like Wamperware, Moncal or Crow Props. I've managed to just about source the boots. I was going to get a custom pair made by Crow Props, but for actually cheaper, I've managed to find a pair of actual German/Soviet jack boots, which would be awesome for the costume. And then that's kind of where we're at now. There's been a long week full of points where I genuinely thought I was going to drop it and quit. But we're powering through, and I don't know if we're going to get this 501st approval. I'm going to do my best. I promise to get as close as possible. But yeah, this week has taught me a lot about costuming and a lot about perseverance. And my biggest piece of advice would just be patience. But we're getting there, and it's nice to see the helmet on its way to being done. But that's it. that's my plan as well for the next week, and next week as well I will update you on how the costume is going as well. Just quickly as well, obviously the YouTube shorts are going up, but I've also started a TikTok. You can find it at Blues Armory on TikTok if you want to come see some more short form content from me and you don't like YouTube shorts. That aside, next week will come with an update. Hopefully we'll have some decals on the helmet and some lenses in, and we'll be able to wear it properly and it'll look nice. And hopefully I won't have had too many breakdowns about the chest piece. But that is it for the video today. Like I said, you can go follow me on TikTok, you can follow me on Instagram, you can just subscribe on YouTube, or you can do none of them. I don't mind. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you have a lovely week, and I was about to say happy crafting, but that's what I meant. Anyway, happy crafting. Let me know if you've got any questions. I will answer them in the comments below. And until the next video, I will see you later. Happy crafting for the Empire. I'm never doing that again. That was ridiculously lame.